Welcome back to Today's Verdict. I'm your host, David Lesch. We are back in the studio after almost 3 years being remote. As always, we encourage you to stay connected. Tweet me at David Lesch. Well, a mega rally took place in Queens this week with elected officials and organizations pushing Mayor Adams to complete New York City Streets Plan implementation. Here to tell us more is Jolyse Race from Riders Alliance. Jolyse, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wonderful. All right, so buses. Some people think that buses take up too much of the road to begin with, but your organization wants to make sure that you get some extra bus lanes for the buses. Why is that? What's so important about buses?
So New York City has the slowest buses in the whole entire country, despite having the highest ridership. And for so long, buses and bus riders have been left behind on city streets. Buses have been defunded, causing a ridership decline. And it's not fair for the people who are still stuck relying on buses every day. And I think that as a city, we need to realize the streets are for everybody, not just cars. Bus riders deserve space on our streets as well.
So what is the plan to give buses their own lanes, to make sure that other vehicles stay out of this particular lane? I know there are bus cameras that if you're in the bus lane, you can get a ticket. What does the plan involve?
So bus lanes and busways are a sure way to speed up buses. And like I said, we have the slowest buses, so they need to be sped up. They crawl at about 8 miles per hour in gridlock traffic, not getting riders to where they need to be on time. And the streets plan law mandates that the mayor implements 150 miles of bus lanes during his administration. And it calls for 20 miles of bus lanes in the year 2022. And we've only seen 5 miles of those bus lanes finished.
Why? Why is that? Why haven't they finished it?
So DOT and the mayor's office, they have the resources to make this plan work. We won funding specifically for the streets plan. I think it's just about political will and political power.
Well, getting back to the buses, because I've spent a considerable amount on buses. I grew up in Queens. I would take public transportation all the time to and from school. And when I'm in the city, in Manhattan, I have been taking buses fairly often. Buses are clogged. Bus lanes are clogged with vehicles that should not be there. Constantly double parked, whether they're Ubers that are parking, whatever. How much of it is the fact that there's no bus lanes to begin with, or the fact that even if there are bus lanes, there are vehicles who just don't seem to take into account that the lane is just designated for buses?
Enforcement is a huge issue that we are working on constantly. In order for a bus lane to work, we need cars to stay out of the lanes. But still, implementing more bus lanes throughout the city is always going to speed up buses, and something that we always are going to be advocating for bus riders.
And what's the goal? I mean, in terms of, you seem to be measuring it by miles per hour, from what I understand. But if it still takes a certain amount of time for riders to come onto the bus and to exit the bus, it doesn't really matter in terms of the speed, does it? I mean, you're stopping every block and a half. How does that change? How does a bus lane really change if the bus has to stop every block and a half anyway?
Well, we're also pushing for the MTA to implement bus network redesigns, which they're working on right now. And with that redesign, it would actually do something called stop spacing, which would make those bus stops a little bit longer. They do that in a lot of other countries with better bus service than in New York City. So that is something that the MTA is working on right now. And we are just trying to make sure that those redesigns get pushed out appropriately and that they're actually increasing service for riders.
Let's talk about the rally. You recently had a rally. Do you feel it was poorly attended, or did you feel you had the turnout that you really wanted?
Oh, the energy at the rally was awesome. We were there, we showed out. and you can see our banner right there, Mayor Adams, bus or bust, and we mean it. We
And
had several speakers and organizations there speaking on why we need this plan. It's imperative to people's lives.
are you getting the proper press? Are you getting the word out? Are there? I mean, I know you're doing the rallies. I understand that, but sometimes I think, litigation unfortunately ends up being the way you really get these things implemented. What's your next step?
Our next step is to keep putting political pressure on the mayor in whatever way that makes sense. Riders Alliance, we're a grassroots organization made up of subway and bus riders, and we know that the power really comes from the ground up. Our power comes from actual bus riders who are taking the bus every day. And we're on the ground every day talking to bus riders, making sure they know about our organization and about the fight that's going on so that they can become a part of that system of making sure that the mayor listens up.
Jolyse, when you talk about the bus lanes, do you also talk about the bike lanes as well? Is it part and parcel? Do they go together? How do you argue for one without arguing for the other?
Oh, we argue for both. They come hand in hand. We really need to rethink and redesign our city streets and think of other modes of transportation besides cars. So that is bus lanes and bike lanes together, of course, and pedestrian safety as well.
Well, pedestrian safety I think, is number one, to be honest with you. But you could get injured very easily if you're in the bike lane and somebody's either biking the wrong way or they're just going through red lights and they're not stopping. What are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people don't like the bike lanes because they feel that they're dangerous to begin with.
Bus lanes are dangerous only when cars are parked there and, someone can get sideswiped by a door opening up. We need protected bike lanes. We need bike lanes that are not right beside curb parking, basically. They need to be separate from cars parked on the street.
All right, with Jolyse Race, Senior Organizer of Riders Alliance, I want to thank you very much for being here, and hopefully you'll come back to join us another time.
Thank you so much.